So we're going to have a little look at this balanced discipleship business. I'm not going to say too much, or what I do say, I'm going to whiz through quite quickly because I'd like you to have a bit of a chat about it, really. So here we go. Jesus, just a reminder, and you can look at Jesus' ministry in lots of different ways and how he went about it. But if we think about his relationships, his relationship with Father, that up thing going on, passionate spirituality, his relationship with that group of people around him, that community that traveled with him, whether you think in terms of the 3 very close disciples, the 12 disciples, or the wider group that traveled with him, that radical community and his relationship with them. And then, of course, his missionary enthusiasm for everybody else. He would set time aside to be with Father in prayer. He was passionate about that. He was disciplined about it as well, actually. And I love when we read about Jesus' prayer life, that it's early in the morning, or it's round about when a big decision has got to be made, and or it's after a huge miracle like feeding the 5,000. And this thing about going back to Father and seeking the guidance and the strength and keeping that connection strong. And then the investment of his time and energy into that community around him. And then just his passion for people, these 3 directions. And I guess I'm suggesting that this might be a language that might help us, this up, in and out, when we come to look at our own relationships with Father, with one another as church, and out there in our wider community. I just want to stress again, we're all different. We're all very different. Your life is not my life. My life is not your life. We've all got our very individual challenges and joys. We journey at a different pace. We learn at a different pace. We get excited by different things. We're different. But within our individuality, I guess I see some principles in this that can help give us a common language to discuss our faith and help one another with our faith, because we're all wrestling with something that distracts us from Jesus' call on our lives, be they stones on the path, if we want to use that language, or weeds in the garden, that language, whatever. So Jesus as an example. So if we translate that to us and our discipleship, put our names in that triangle instead of Jesus's, and we want to follow the model, the example that he gave us. So what about our spirituality and the passion in our spirituality? What about the way we do community? Is it honest? Is it deep in terms of our relationships with one another, the connection we have with one another? Or is it very formal and standoffish and just limited to an hour on Sunday morning? How do we do radical community in a way that speaks to the world around us of Jesus' love, so that when they look in on us, they see something special, remarkable, countercultural, otherworldly, because they see Jesus and his love in us? And what about this enthusiasm for going out there as well? So it's kind of translating Jesus' model to us as disciples. We looked at some verses, Mark 12, and you can come across this in other Gospels, but in Mark, Jesus is saying, when he's talking about the law, the most important one, he answered, is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. Put some passion into it. It's kind of what he's saying. Put everything into it. And then the second is this: love your neighbor as yourself. Well, there's 2 challenges in that one reading straight away. If we move on to John 13, and that commandment, our new commandment I give to you, love one another. Love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you're my disciples, if you love one another. It's kind of a hallmark of who we belong to, the way we love one another. And then finally in Matthew 28 there, that great commission, Jesus came to the disciples and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go, make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. Disciples making disciples, and surely I'm with you always to the very end of the age. We had a look at the message wording of those verses as well, because I find that quite helpful and illuminating, but you can look that up yourselves in your own time, I'm sure, if you really want to do that. We put all that together and translate all of that. I guess loving relationships is how it covers it all. Loving relationships up, loving relationships inside our community, loving relationships out in the world out there, a missional witness. And how are we doing? How intentional are we about living this way? Do we need help, support, encouragement? Do we need a bit of honesty, a bit of self-critiquing in there? So there it all is, with the verses overlaid. If any of you want this emailed to you, I can happily do that rather than you just looking at my PowerPoints all the time. But my question to you is, can you see how Jesus role modeled those up, in and out things in his own life? I guess I'm wondering if you can see that, or whether it's just me and I'm barking up a wrong tree there. So I just wanted to give you a chance to have a bit of a chat about that, and have a chat about whether you see this as useful language to help us with our own discipleship. Is this something that we might be able to adapt, tweak, and be able to say to one another when we've got those relationships with one another? How's your up doing? How's your relationship with God doing? And we'd each know what the other was asking of us, but if that was that language was used. And if we're going to get into it and look at those three, really, which of up, in, and out do we tend to focus on? It might be different for you and you and you and you and me. But is there one of those three that you can connect with, that you would say, yep, okay, I'm investing a bit into that? I'll be interested to hear which of those you lean towards, because I think, probably if we're honest, we might be good at one, possibly two, but I doubt very much whether we've got all three under control. But that's just a conversation for us to have. So I think it would be good if we popped into some breakout groups now. I'm going to pull that down and have a quick look at you. Are you up for that?